So, like Nick mentioned, we're going to be doing a retro review for good old Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2, 20th anniversary this year. Came out in 2004. We've
Oof.
been going back and doing 20th anniversary reviews for all those movies that came out in '04. We recently just did Incredibles. And this is our second film we're going to do. Spider-Man 2, considered one of the best Spider-Man movies ever. Still to this day, people can not only one of the best Spider-Man movies, but one of the best superhero movies ever. One of the best movies ever.
Mhm.
A lot of people really love
Yeah,
Spider-Man 2
and
like that.
yeah, shockingly, the year 2004, a lot of professional critics, especially Robert Ebert, they put it on their best films of 2004 list.
Wow. Yeah. So it had high praise from a lot of people. So again, if you don't know the story of Spider-Man, I mean, who doesn't know the story of Spider-Man? Peter Parker. Still trying to balance that life of being Spider-Man, trying to live his also regular everyday life, trying to go to college, trying to work, take photos there, get money. Trying to have all those things kind of balance out. And while he's doing that, he has the evil mad scientist Doc Ock out there terrorizing the citizens of New York. Doc Ock, who's the new antagonist after the Green Goblin in the
Mhm.
first movie. And in this, you have Oscar, what's Molina, right? Uh,
Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina. Sorry about that. Alfred Molina there, who comes in there as the new villain of this movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, man, Spider-Man 2, yeah, you say it's been 20 years since its release. What are some of your
Mm,
thoughts? How old were you when Spider-Man 2 released and
Shit,
you saw it in
I was 8 years old when I saw Spider-Man 2, and no, I was 9, excuse me. Uh, and it was this was when I was still living in Hawaii. I remember seeing the first movie. It was either that or X-Men. That was the first movie I saw in theaters, and I wore those VHSs and that DVD out. So I could not have been more excited to see this when I was a kid. And when it came out, and I got the Spider-Man 2 DVD for Christmas, I wore that motherfucker out until it got all scratched up from how much I watched it.
Mm, yeah. Dusk, what about you? What are your thoughts on seeing Spider-Man 2 for the first time?
Well, as a sentient robot man with a suit, I don't exactly have a birth date that I can recall, but I do remember when I saw this movie. It was 2004. Saw it in theaters.
Mm,
I was already a huge Spider-Man fan
mhm,
beforehand. I played some of the games. It was either Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 or 2
mhm.
had just come out. I was excited. I was looking forward to this movie. I seen the first one and loved it. And this one blew me away. I didn't know how they're
Mhm.
going to top the first one. I thought the first
Yeah,
one was a really good interpretation of
mhm.
Spider-Man. I'm like, how are they going to beat that?
Yeah,
And
my
this,
yeah, my dad, he kind of indulged me with the first Spider-Man. It was like, yeah, that was a cool comic book movie. And with this, it was like, yeah, that wasn't just a good superhero movie. That was a great movie in general. Period.
mhm.
Mm, yeah. It's interesting going back watching this. Now that people have talked about it, you've had other movies that superhero movies that, and this helped did build the
Mhm,
foundation of a lot of great superhero movies that we see today. It's interesting going back and watching it, maybe saying like, has it aged the best?
mhm,
Now since 20 years, certain elements of the movie, and we're going to get into some of the big discussions and debates that people talk about with this movie still, which is the whole Mary Jane thing, is
mhm.
bad girlfriend, bad relationship, not so good relationship, great relationship. That's a big topic there with this movie. Um, Rain from Tree said, "Hindsight makes you wonder if Harry made Doc Ock do some extra sour to get that funding." Uh,
Get
yeah.
your head out of the gutter, M, for immaturity.
Yeah, and the thing about, you do have Alfred Molina there, and you do also see these characters did come back recently. No Way
Mhm,
Home, Alfred Molina is Doc Ock. You have William Defoe, Green Goblin, who came back in No Way Home there in the latest MCU movie
mhm.
there. Yeah, so it's interesting kind of seeing that with the whole maybe some things when you really kind of look back at it plot wise don't make a lot of sense. And speak about Doc Ock, the whole thing of like him doing the whole science experiment inside his little studio apartment in front of all these people. It's
Hey,
like, what about the
hey, r
radiation?
rent is expensive in New York.
Yeah, I mean, you think that because Harry is funding him, you think that's like, okay, let's do this experiment. Let's set it up in an actual
And
lab, and then the people can be behind glass, and
well, for me, like with this movie, because I think a huge part of this is, Doc Ock. Otto Octavius is still very, very prideful. He thinks that this is a experiment that is going to go absolutely swimmingly. He can't even bring up the possibility that this could go wrong. And if it does, that it could go so horribly wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then you do have a line in this which is repeated in No Way Home, a classic line
Oh
that
yeah.
Mhm.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Mhm.
You do
And
have
like Icarus, he flew too close to the sun.
Mhm.
yeah. And then it also can be said that I mean, with his arms, I mean, why is nobody talking about that? I mean, that seems also like a huge
Oh,
Yeah,
that was like a
that's
huge invention
that's
already.
that's a huge breakthrough already.
yeah. It's
It
like
was like, and a thing I love about that scene is like that's not even the big breakthrough. It is this experiment with the cold fusion.
Yeah.
yeah. And you're right. They do go through. I mean, Peter, when he does a meeting with him early on, like Harry does set up a meeting with Peter because he
Mhm.
greatly admires, Dr. Octavius, and goes like,
Mhm.
his work on cold fusion,
Mhm.
and he goes like, well, what do you think about having it in here and doing that, or
Yeah,
like,
it's
is
like
it gonna
yeah,
work?
yeah, it's like yeah, like have you considered like how badly this could go? It was like yeah, and even Otto is kind of like reassuring. It was like, hey, do you think I would go through with this if I knew didn't know the risk of the slightest miscalculation?
Yeah. Rating from Trudy said, I feel it's very true that the cheesy 60s comic Sam Raimi was a fan of.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess you could see
Yeah.
that as well. It has that nature of, that is,
Mhm.
kind of a part of it. It
It,
has
it
oh, go
it's
ahead.
yeah, it's not perfect on the front of logically looking at
Uh-huh.
it in that manner. They do bring
But
it up for lip service. It's not that
but
Peter isn't looking it up, but
uh-huh.
yeah, when you look at it from the lens of a Steve Ditko early Spider-Man,
Mhm.
it makes perfect sense.
And even because this film, it's kind of amazing that the screenplay was written by two-time Academy Award winner Alvin Sargent, and I feel like a reason that this movie has kind of stood the test of time and it is so revered as one of the best superhero movies is how the biggest moments in this movie, they aren't so much the action set pieces, which are amazing in their own
Mhm.
right. It's all of the little stuff between characters, like even that moment with Peter and Otto when they first meet. It's like Peter is kind of seeing this figure that he aspires to be, this guy who kind of has figured everything out, has figured out how to balance this gift that he has to better the world with having a loving relationship.
Mm, yeah, and you see that, in this movie, he's suffering in all areas of life. The city hates him as
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Uh,
this yeah, where the first movie is kind of indulging in that power fantasy of, wait, wouldn't it be awesome to have all of these powers? This movie is right there to smack you down to reality. No! Your best friend hates you. The girl you love wants nothing to do with you. You're broke. You can't keep a job.
yeah, I mean, all of that is kind of just
And guess
piling on.
what? Your webs don't work no more.
Yeah.
Which is yeah, that's another big plot point of this movie as well. Of he's suffering from superhero erectile dysfunction here, where just nothing comes out. Boom. There's
Hey,
like
it happens to 1 in 5 men.
yeah, boom. Yeah, and a lot of this, I mean, this kind of plot point in the movie seems like it's psychosomatic. It's
Mhm.
mainly, obviously it's all in his head.
Oh,
Nothing
it
really, happened with.
Oh, it very much is, which I think the whole point of this movie is it's it's Peter has accepted that responsibility of never looking the other way again when he has the power to help somebody. But this movie, it's kind of very similar to season 3 of Daredevil in that kind of Book of Job story of how much can life beat you down and make you question your faith and your dedication to that responsibility.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think about that plot point, Dust?
I mean, I think that's probably one of the best features of this. This is what makes the Spider-Man comics interesting, is how Peter deals with life.
Mhm.
And he's a superhero firsthand, but what made him so and what made him explode in popularity and become basically the face of Marvel Comics was because he was people could identify with him. in all walks of life. They could understand the struggle. Trying is you get teased, you like something, but you don't have the money to afford it. You want to try and do the best you can, but it's not everybody applauds you for it. And although you have your confidants in life, even then they can't always be
Yeah,
there for
they
you.
yeah, even they're starting to kind of get sick of your shit and how flaky you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think that comes into another discussion about the whole kind of MJ type thing here, which that's also very much talked about.
Mhm.
Kristen Dunst, who's Mary Jane,
Yeah,
in
and
this.
yeah, and rewatching the first two films of the Raimi trilogy in preparation for this, a lot of that is kind of unfair because at the end of the first movie, MJ did declare her love for Peter, and he walked away.
Yeah.
He said no.
So you have kind of posts like this right here. So you look at the green text right here that you have where it says it's Mary Jane. It says, Peter, I don't want to hear about your 2 jobs, university internship, dead parents, dead uncle, and one living relative related soul who was sick, it was a 6 old lady, financial struggles, loss of your house and your scooter that got demolished in a car accident. Why didn't you show up to my play? I have to fuck Chad now and bye. Now, now
That yeah,
uh
that feels a little unfair.
yeah, and then you have a person here who quote tweeted and says, "I think a lot of the hatred for Dust MJ beyond the misogyny comes from men who are unable to accept that Peter is flawed because they see so much of themselves in him and don't like being called
Mhm,
out." So I think with that, so you do have a lot of that kind of going on where people go like, "Yes, I mean Peter is going through a lot
mhm,
in his life." But also, he is not very much upfront with MJ about a lot of what's going on
mhm.
Yeah.
because he has the dual responsibility of Spider-Man, and, she is trying to move on with her life and do
Yeah,
the stuff.
yeah, she took his rejection at the end of the first movie in stride. They're still friends, but she's moving on with her life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see kinda like this.
I shined my shoes, pressed my pants, did my homework. I do my homework now. You want to get some chow mein?
Peter, I'm getting married.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, you see kinda like, he's still trying to press it when,
Yeah,
like you said, she's moved
it
on.
yeah, yeah, this most recent rewatch, it reminded me a lot of 500 Days of Summer.
Mm,
Mm,
And in that way where, because the movie is told from Peter's perspective, that it's like, okay, I'm trying to change all the stuff that push you away. I fixed all that. So date me.
yeah.
mhm.
And like you said, I mean, how frustrating would it be for a person who keeps trying to make promises and keeps breaking the promises?
Mhm,
Like,
Yeah.
don't keep promising you're going to show up someplace and you're not going to be there. And don't keep promising to
mhm.
show up to the play that it's like, oh, I promise I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there on time. And then you don't show up. And I get that obviously there's
Mhm.
other responsibilities that he's to take care of.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
imagine how frustrating.
but at the time, she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that. It's not like it's not really comparable to the whole Amber and
Mhm.
Invincible thing because that's
Yeah,
also she
Oh,
gets
yeah, that's
and
not even
and
comparable.
and even in season 2 where she is 100% in the know, she is way more chill about it.
yeah.
Y Yeah, the first 2 movies, the first
Mhm,
movie for Spider-Man and the Sam Raimi movies is about, taking responsibility. It's like, all right, I want to great power comes great responsibility. It's like, okay, I'll
mhm,
take it. I'll take that. If I'm gonna have this great power, I'll take the responsibility. All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for you, Uncle Ben. I'm gonna do it for the people. I'll do it for myself. Second movie is, well, you have the responsibility now. Well, what are you gonna do with? What does that mean? What does
mhm,
having a great responsibility actually mean? And throughout the movie, he learns it. The movie's about learning what that great responsibility means. It doesn't just mean, oh, I have this great power, so I'll have to sacrifice everything for myself. It's a no, but you also have to be responsible for everything in your life. You have to
Yeah,
be like,
yeah,
if you're going to make a promise, you need to
yeah,
try and keep it. If you're
life
going to do
yeah,
right by
life
someone, you need to.
yeah, life doesn't stop just because you have this responsibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He has responsibility. Like, you want to be a scientist, you want to get into that field, you got to be there for your classes.
Mhm,
You want or make up the work or do what you got to do. You want to, it doesn't mean what later on he interprets that as, well, I'll just give up all the responsibility and move on and let people, other people suffer. It's
Okay,
like,
fuck being Spider-Man.
yeah, fuck being Spider-Man. It's like, no. It's about there's going to be a sacrifice for it. And it's about, you have to be, once you do that, you have to understand what you are sacrificing. That's what makes this movie so good. At
Yeah.
first, he's sacrificed, but he doesn't quite know what that sacrifice truly means.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then Aunt May gives that great speech, the
Yeah.
phenomenal speech.
Yeah, and a reason, and I think one of the main ones of why this trilogy of films is so beloved is Tobey Maguire and Rosemary Harris as Peter and Aunt May.
Yeah.
And Aunt May very much serving as the Uncle Iroh to Peter Parker in this.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, Javon Good. Thank you for the 20 bits there, man. Much
Thank you, Javon.
appreciated there.
Hey,
Javon
buddy.
does great responsibility means doing your chores.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
clean your room, kids.
He also said sacrifice losing his virginity.
Yeah, well,
He also
not all
mentioned
heroes wear capes.
Hey, it's kind of the movie's fault for taking place during November.
Yeah. And you mentioned the kind of the Aunt May speech, which is right here.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Rosemary Harris does an amazing job as Aunt May, by the
Mhm.
way.
Oh, yeah.
There.
In many people's camp, she is Aunt May.
Picture
Mhm.
in the paper anymore. He
It was kind of
uh
there's also kind of this debate about how many people in Peter's life knew. And I
Mhm.
feel like this moment, this speech with Aunt May is a giant tell that, motherfucker, you lived in my house. I saw the webs.
Yeah. And funny enough, in the novelization of the movie, in the mind bubble, in the
Mhm.
novelization, Peter basically says to himself after, because it basically has the same speech in the novelization, they kept that
Mhm.
all in. After he walks away, in his head he says, she knows. Like, there's no, in his head, in his own monologue in his head, it's like, it's at that moment I realized she knew. She just wasn't, she looked at me in a way that, with like one last look as I walked away, and in my head I knew that she knew I was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, it's pretty, come on, I know.
Rated for Maturity said that I was shocked to recently learn that Rosemary Harris is still alive today.
I know.
Yeah.
Damn.
She was
still
at
kicking.
the WGA strike. Yeah, she was there on the picket line. She was in
Mhm.
on some days there. So shout out to her. I think she's in her 90s now.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
is 96 years old.
Yeah, so she's
Good on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the speech here a little bit that Dusty was mentioning beforehand.
too few characters out there flying around like that, saving old girls like me. Lord knows, kids like Henry need a hero. Courageous, self-sacrificing people, setting examples for all of us. Everybody loves a hero. People line up for them, cheer them, scream their names, and years later they'll tell how they stood in the rain for hours just to get a glimpse of the one who taught him to hold on a second longer. I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride, even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams.
So I thought that was a really, good moment there from Rosemary Harris. By the way, she did kind of a passive aggressive thing, I think, before. She did. I mean, this scene, this is when she's kind of packing up, and she said, he goes like, "What happened to all my comic books?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I stole them all." Like, dude,
And it's even funnier because this is right after Peter finally confesses to May about his culpability in Ben's death. And
Yeah.
I love that it doesn't end in a fight. It doesn't end in her blowing up at him. She just looks shocked and just walks out of the room.
yeah.
And it feels like such a human moment that if in the hands of any other director and any other screenwriter, it would have kind of taken a turn into lifetime melodrama.
Yeah, it's also a great moment where at that point she really is his last connection with anything familial and a true confidant.
Mhm.
And so for that moment, that huge risk of him to tell the truth, even when he knows that might have just, like, at that moment, he's like, I just destroyed the last
Mhm.
confidant, the
Yeah,
last person.
and it's this moment when he's at his lowest where all it takes is like that little act of kindness from his landlord's daughter
Yeah.
to just kind of show him that it's worth it to be Spider-Man again.
Real unsung moment, by the way.
Mhm.
Unsung actress. She was both the landlord and landlord daughter were funny. They're both good. Rent.
And
Who the landlord, I guess that was their, I guess shout out to Steve Ditko. I mean, that was Dickovich. I mean, nice kind of shout out, I guess, to make my uh character in the movie like the insane kind of creepy landlord guy. I guess if I'm Steve
yeah,
Ditko from the grave.
Mr. Ditkovich, who's played by Ilya Boskin.
Yeah. So I mean, shout out, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of good moments with him as well in this that are pretty funny. Uh,
Hi. What's hi? Can I spend it?
Paycheck due this week, and
You're a month late again. Again?
I promise.
These promises were crackers. My daughter would be fat.
All I got is this pony for the rest of the week.
Sorry, doesn't pay the rent. And don't try to sneak past me. I have ears like a cat. Nice. Like a rodent.
that was supposed to be. Hey, shout out to Steve Ditko. Hey, rest in peace to him, man. That was his representation in this movie. Yeah, I think also funny stuff. Yeah, in this movie too. Like you have the stuff with the landlord, and you mentioned like the director. Sam Raimi, legendary director. From the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah, and if anything, because at the time a lot of the discourse around Sam Raimi was like, he turned his back on the genre that made him. He turned his back on horror, and in this movie, he does not do that. He says, I'm still that motherfucker.
Yeah. And you also like think about Sam Raimi when you go back and look at a lot of these movies here are the extras. They really make the Spider-Man movies because it really feels like the city of New York is really alive here. And you have like when you look at these movies, they have like almost random, the people. It's like, oh shit, that person or that person. Like for instance, this is coming up right here. This is a comedian that's coming up.
Yeah, and that guy is Scott Spiegel, who produced the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah. Oh, I think I must have skipped past it there. Oh yeah, there.
Yeah.
Oh, he stole that guy's pizza.
Who that's Donnell Rollins. He was on the Chappelle Show.
Yes, he was.
You also have he did that one. In the Doc Ock scene, who was one of the fellow scientists? It was Daniel Day Kim was one of the fellow scientists there.
Yes, Phil Lamar is uncredited in the train.
Yeah, Phil Lamar.
So is Joey Diaz.
Yeah, Joey Diaz is also who frequently doesn't he appear on the Joe Rogan show? He frequently
he's one of Joe Rogan's boys, but I kind of wish that he got to improv a little bit. It was like, you want to get to him, you got to get past us, cocksucker.
So yeah, like that's also another. It really makes the city kind of feel like even in the first Spider-Man movie when they kind of go around and ask people's opinions about.
One of my favorite moments in that first movie is that scene on the bridge where Spidey is fighting Green Goblin and all of New York starts throwing trash at the Goblin. It's like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And then in this scene, it gets a beautiful parallel here.
Yeah. And you mentioned like some of the action sequences here. And also Joey Diaz, big push from The Sopranos. Yeah, he was also in The Sopranos there as well. As that character. The train sequence from this movie. Still, I think the action sequence in this still like one of the best action sequences in any superhero movie ever. Like this is really great. The fight sequence, him and Doc Ock.
Kind of amazing how much of this was done practically with of course some green screen and some old school movie tricks, but practical animatronics with some of the close-up shots of the arms, some practical stunt work. It's incredible to watch and stuff we don't get a lot of nowadays.
Which is why
in action movies
succeeds and is able to still look good to this day because a lot of it was practical.
Yeah, I mean, you see some scenes with like Doc Ock where it's clearly like it looks very CGI there, very video game-ish. You do see that there, but I think it still really holds up a lot and still looks really good and really kind of well done.
And just how crowded the subway scene and just adds to this feeling of mounting tension throughout it.
Yeah, really, really well done. Really perfectly well done. And this sequence has been it's like this is like the Superman when he lands the plane safely type thing. This has
Mhm.
always kind of been in other superhero Spider-Man media here where he does that. That was in the recent Spider-Verse movie where they kind of pay homage to that as well. They
Yeah,
do that.
and in the PS4 video game where even he drops the line of, "Hey, that totally worked last time."
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, so that does make an appearance there in the, famous stopping the train sequence here.
The
Pretty
famous.
impressive.
Yeah, this is his Jesus moment.
Yeah.
Insane level of strength for him to do.
Is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man probably the strongest Spider-Man?
Oh, probably by far.
Yeah, okay.
Tom Maguire is probably the strongest. I'd say
Mhm.
Andrew Garfield's probably the most agile, most athletic, agile, and then Tom Holland was kind of even in everything. He doesn't really specialize in anything.
Like, really, yeah. Jesus moment there, he's using all his stop this train.
And it's just how painful it is.
We're slowing down.
Man, really, yeah. Does a lot of this. So that was, yeah, really, really kind of well done there. Yeah, like you said, gets kind of parodying all this kind of social media. And even he gets carried like Jesus. You see this?
Mhm.
Which is nice. And there's a funny line when somebody said like he looks no older than my son, even though it's like
Yeah,
Tom McGuire's like 30 something
Yeah,
years old.
He's like, he's like 32.
Yeah.
But he's only supposed to be, I
Is
think,
he
like
alive?
25 in the movie.
Yeah, 20 something.
He's just a kid.
Just a kid. I mean, come on. What the fuck? Come on, man. I know this is
Hey,
04,
He's
man.
only,
But
he's just a young man.
Motherfucker, you look 30.
Yeah, well, Tom
Uh,
Maguire did have a younger looking face.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire kind of had that, like, all that constant baby face, and that's a part of the reason why he was such a good fit for Peter Parker.
yeah.
Oh yeah, the high school in the first one, rated M for maturity.
Minus the 35-year-old
Yeah,
bully.
Flash is like Flash was like 32 or whatever.
It was like it was like 21 Jump Street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
jeez.
Dronga said, meanwhile, Spider-Man killed 50 people on the ground, pulling off those buildings there.
See, these
No,
were
they're
the
fine.
questions that we weren't worried about back in 2004 when we didn't have a lot of these superhero movies.
We knew everything was all right.
Uh-huh.
The camera didn't show us that. It's fine.
And then well, like where's that train? Because if it's like it stops right there, where is it gonna turn around at? Like
It's not.
It's not. That train's fucked.
okay. Because I was like,
They'll get off the station. They'll be rescued,
They'll,
but
they'll get rescued eventually.
yeah.
it's just
Um,
getting that train out there. That train's gonna be in decommission for a while.
But a lot of the other than of course, Doc Ock committed a lot of crime in the city there because when he goes mad, he's got the little chip in the back of his neck that controls the arms, but that
Mhm.
gets damaged during the experiment there. The arms end up kind of taking control of him, and he ends up going mad again. When that scene happens, where he's in the hospital, really that harkens back to good old classic, Raimi there.
That's Sam Raimi going, "I'm still that motherfucker."
Yeah, which is something that, when he came to do Doctor Strange,
Mhm.
you wish you brought that same kind of element there to the movie as well.
Feels like he
Uh,
couldn't. Not
yeah.
the way always that he would want it.
Mhm.
But it's
Yeah,
absolutely
And I liked Multiverse of Madness, but even I kind of felt that it was like, I wish he could have gone off more.
yeah. I mean, but this is like really well
this
done.
is this entire set piece is terrifying.
Yeah, like I like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I think
Ah.
yeah, that was like Wax, I think it was, what she was
Yeah.
going on. Yeah. Man, really, really, yeah. with the arms-
Bassoons.
Oh, there you go.
Oh!
That was John Landis.
Oh, man.
John Landis, who directed American Werewolf in London.
And also killed 3 people. I mean,
Well,
But yeah, I mean, yeah, so that was
it's an accident, Nick.
yeah, I mean, yeah, so with that's a great introduction to see what the arms can do, to see the full extent of the arms. But also there's a plot that kind of Harry devises with him and Doc. They kind of team up of like, hey, I want you to go and get Spider-Man because Harry still has a mission to kill Spider-Man since he blames him for killing his father. I think James Franco in this movie, I think he is a little bit over exaggerated. I think
Mhm.
in some than other aspects of this movie. There,
Well, there's also a little bit of the element that for pretty much the entirety after the failed experiment scene, he's pretty much always loaded.
yeah. I mean, he's coping a lot. I mean, it's
He's self-medicating like a motherfucker.
so there is that.
Yeah,
But
he replaced his best friend Peter Parker with good old Jim Bean.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the first movie, he's like, "Peter, I'm gonna find the man who killed my father." And
Mhm.
Spider-Man is like, "Spider-Man, I know it." And Peter didn't go. You ever consider going seeing a therapist? You have a lot of
You
deep-seated
sure
anger
about
issues.
that, buddy?
You sure about that, buddy? I mean, what did you actually see? Well, I saw him deliver a body. But did you check the wounds? Did you check anything like that? He was stabbed in like multiple places, all in a single alignment. Seems kind of fishy to me. I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe talk to your butler.
Okay, I've kind of come around on Spider-Man 3, but that is a plot point that has never sat right with me.
Yeah. And
I
you
let
see
you drink yourself into a stupor and destroy the family legacy until just about we're penniless. But now I'll bring up that it wasn't Peter Parker who killed him.
Yeah, I'll let you go do this to yourself until half your face is burnt off, and then I'll tell you.
That crackpot who you thought was going to take you with him to fame and fortune. Not to mention your friend the bug.
Not
Dude, he
tonight.
saved
Every
everybody.
night. Until I find him, it's 24/7.
Yeah. I mean, see
Hey,
that
hey,
was a
It
lot of
was
the tension.
hey, it was between this or starting an acting school for Harry Osborn, so it was like this was the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Rated infantry, the butler was the real villain of Spider-Man 3. I believe it, honestly. He really was. You're like, you could have like told me that before I got half my face blown off.
Butler was trying to pull a little finger and realized that, yeah, this ain't going nowhere. I'm cutting my losses.
Body and you defend him because he's your bread and butter. Take it easy. Hey, don't push me. Don't act like you're my friend. You stole MJ from me.
Ooh.
You stole my father's love.
Oof.
And you let him die because you didn't turn in the freak. Isn't that right?
Ooh.
Huh? Isn't that right? Huh, brother?
You think? I mean, if he kind of tried to stop him a little bit, you think it's too much? Like, well, people might know I'm Spider-Man. If he at least tried to
Mhm.
fend them off a little bit, I mean, he
It,
could have maybe
it,
done a little something.
it's also that's just Peter because he knows he could easily stop this, but he also knows that his friend is hurting and probably just needs to vent a little bit.
I think it's also a genuine shock
Mhm.
because he's been so close. And he even calls
Yeah,
him brother.
yeah,
It's an insult,
they've
but
been
they
so
really were.
yeah, they've been so close for their entire lives that I don't think Peter realizes the kind of resentment that Harry kind of has deep down about how much Norman made it very clear that he preferred Peter to Harry.
Oh my god. Did he ever?
Yeah. But yeah, you see a lot of good journey that's kind of going on with Peter in this, and like you said, going kind of trying to be, you know, what it means to really be a hero. That balance there, and you see, like you mentioned in the movie, of him, having that moment where he goes like, "I'll just retire." I think I'm just done now.
Yeah.
Have the most sad and emotionally scarring scene in the movie. Follow it immediately by raindrops keep falling on my head.
He's back. Yeah, he's back and he's doing that well, which was also mentioned in Spider-Man 3 as well. Where it's kind of like a mirror of this scene there where he kind of turns evil there, which I kind of I kind of get that in Spider-Man 3 of like them
Mhm.
doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like in Spider-Man 3, it's more played for camp. Like we all know this isn't cool, but Peter Parker's kind of a dork, so he thinks it's cool.
yeah. But also I think there's like there's a scene in this movie where he's just watching the dude get mugged in the alley. It's like, yeah,
Oh,
man, you
yeah.
can at least call somebody, man. You can yell or something. That doesn't mean you
Sounds like a
I don't know.
call
Yell
for
out.
another guy.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
yeah. But
Yo, that was the real origin of Bully McGuire.
yeah, just seeing somebody's like, man, you could do at least something, man. I mean, come on. but you see him kind of come back. He's seeing like all the like what it's missing. And crime goes up 75%. I mean, Jesus Christ. And you see the moment where he kind of springs into action here, saving a little girl from a burning building, just as regular Peter Parker there. That moment he's
Yeah.
got, his powers not working or anything like that. And I don't know if somebody was joking or somebody was fucking around or something, but somebody was like, well, what if the little girl that he saves here was Ned Lee's mom in No Way Home or some shit. Somebody said some dumb shit like that.
That's
Damn.
some y'all motherfuckers just reach for anything. And
Yeah.
also, like, that's a Chinese kid.
Mm.
Ned's
Yeah.
Filipino. You racists.
Yeah, like that's like I was like, what the
And now it's not even a kid anymore. It's a dummy.
Yeah.
He has to hold on to a prop.
Yeah, you don't think Sam Raimi's crazy enough to little girl in a burning building? I think he is.
You know what? Actually, if he had
At
the
least-
power,
Hey, the first movie made like $100 million in its opening weekend. In Hollywood, especially at that time, that basically made you God.
Yeah. So yeah.
Just yeeted that child into the
oh yeah, hey, Javon, good. He brings up a good point. That's like the only thing. It's just like you were a real hero, kid. You saved that little girl. Oh man, another guy died in there.
Yeah, but that is it. But that is the moment where Peter starts questioning. Is like, shit. Maybe if I had my powers still, maybe I could have saved him.
Yeah.
To be fair, Javon, he is also not had his powers back. So yeah, he can jump from building. This is when he's like psychologically he's in normal mode.
Yeah, he's still in normal mode there. So you do have some kind of bumpy things about the movie. I mentioned some of the consistency, some of the logic there. I mentioned like some of the stuff Doc Ock is doing. Even when there's a scene where because he wants to track down Peter Parker, doesn't know he's Spider-Man, but because Peter Parker is the one that takes photos of Spider-Man, he's like, well, he must know where he is and where I can find him.
It's like the only lead.
Yeah. And he ends up throwing a whole car at them when he's at dinner, which I think is kind of stupid because like how does he know that he's going to die?
And also it was like the last thing Harry said was like, "Don't hurt Peter."
Yeah,
shouting as he's already out of earshot.
Which
is like, "Hurt Peter? Gotcha."
Which I don't know what this was supposed to do. Like, bro, you couldn't just bust through the door. You say, why'd you throw a car in there?
Yeah,
like
they got absurdly lucky.
There are some lapses in logic. However, I kind of have this rule when it comes to movies is like, does the rule of cool apply?
Yeah.
To which I say in this scene, yeah, it kind of does. Because this is also like the impetus of him getting his powers back.
Yeah, because Mary Jane, of course, as always, through all these movies, gets kidnapped. I mean, in all three movies, Mary Jane gets kidnapped. But yeah,
don't want to invest in like one can of mace after the first movie, like just not one.
I mean, maybe Doc Ock can invest in like a shirt.
I mean, he's pretty ripped, man. I don't know. He's like, hey,
he's rocking the dad bod, and he's proud of it.
Yeah.
Also, can't really fit a shirt over the goddamn
you just
iron
open.
tentacles.
You just get one of those back open shirts. It'll be all right.
Javon said, how the hell Doc Ock throw that car and he's not outside
he
the window?
He threw it from very far away.
Yeah, he's got
yeah. Look, we could nitpick this movie if you really want.
It's like we could nitpick this movie all day long, but we're not CinemaSins. We actually like movies.
And then Ready for Maturity said he's kind of lost his mind a little bit by the point. That's true too. He's
That's
very
true.
much he's got voices in his head going on.
At this point, it's not Otto anymore. It is Doc Ock.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie plays a lot with. And I think all of these movies kind of play around a little bit with the dual identity, like with the first movie had Norman Osborn and the Goblin, and this you kind of have it with Otto Octavius, this like normal, kind, good-hearted man, and then you have Dr. Octopus.
Because a lot of Spider-Man villains are either thugs or crazy scientists. That kind of boils down to a lot of Spider-Man villains there. What's some of your final thoughts? Rating for Spider-Man 2 there.
Shit. For me, even though I can't even think of a but. I fucking love this movie. I love uh how at its core, how it focuses on the humanity, and it really asks the question of what does it mean to be Spider-Man, and what does it mean to be a hero? What really is the full weight of living your life with great power and accepting that great responsibility, having to give up, have to make the sacrifices in order to do that, in order to do the right thing and do better for the world. Um, and functioning as a pure sequel to the first movie, how do you step up, how do you improve on what the first movie did so well, and where it could have, this movie did it in every single conceivable way, as far as its action set pieces, its character development, its inclusion of making New York feel like a character in its own right, and make it feel like this is vital to the character of Spider-Man. And this is my favorite Toby performance as the character. It's the one where I felt like all the actors were kind of on their A game throughout this franchise, this trilogy of films. And for me, this is just a perfect superhero movie and one of my all-time favorites. I can't give this anything but a this is cinema. This was
Huh.
my one of my favorite theater experiences when I was a kid, and a movie that every time I've seen it on any kind of physical media, I buy it. Every time I come across it on TV, I'm watching it all the way through.
Mm, yeah, this is cinema there for you. Think it's still the best superhero movie ever?
It is up there for me. It's either between the first Iron Man, Batman Begins, or Superman 78.
Mm, okay. Dust, what about you?
Yeah, there's so much great imagery in this movie. So much, uh, so many quotable lines, great
Mhm,
performances, even if they're over the top. They
mhm,
they just fit the 1960s aesthetic that like Spider-Man era, that Steve Ditko era, so much to a T.
mhm,
So many haunting images, which were comic book panels in the comic book, recreated so perfectly. Great action set pieces, even as limited as they were. CGI that may not have updated, but it doesn't matter because everything else around it
mhm.
works.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're so invested in characters that you don't care that, some of the visuals of, by today's
yeah.
standards look a little wonky
Yeah,
with the
whatever
CGI.
whatever's flaws might be in certain characterizations or small things here and there, they're ultimately small nitpicks, and often nitpicks that we've come to kind of look at as the movies have progressed, of as time has kind of led on and we look back. But every time I see this, I'm brought back to seeing it back in 2004, seeing it from the first one, excited to see a third one, and I'm just reminded that every great dialogue, every little nuance with the characters and acting, it just didn't. You can't give this anything else, but this is cinema.
Yeah.
This is definitely, if
Yeah.
not one of the best, it's definitely in the top five best
Mhm.
superhero movies.
Yeah, it's like every time I watch this, I feel like I'm being right. I feel like I'm that little kid seeing it in the movie theater back in 2004
Yeah,
again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of great things. I mean, I just nitpick some things about this movie. There about some of the plot elements here, some of the character decisions, but yeah, I still think it's a very strong movie. Still really strong on a lot of elements. On strong in the action, really strong in the direction of it. It has a personality. It has life to it. You know who directed it by watching
Mhm.
it. Sam Raimi, which is something that you can't say for maybe some other modern day superhero movies. The guy who directs what's his name? The guy who directs the MCU Spider-Man
Oh,
movies,
John Watts.
John Watts.
Yeah,
It's
as much as I like the MCU Spider-Man movies, and I do, I like them fine, but you could swap it out with any other director, and I doubt very little would change.
Yeah. So there you have, this personality. You have really, emotional performances, from Rosemary Harris as Aunt May. You have Uncle Ben who comes back here. Who's the actor who played Uncle Ben?
Cliff Robertson.
Cliff Robertson, who really does an amazing job in,
Yeah,
in the
and
first one.
yeah, and
and a
and
great cameo in the second.
it's probably one of the best scenes in the entire movie.
Very emotional scene here.
Peter, all the times we talked of honesty, fairness, justice, all of those times I counted on you to have the courage to take those dreams out into the world.
Yeah. And, just like his tone of voice, everything about it, same thing with Aunt May, just really pitch perfect. I mean, really great Uncle Ben and Aunt May there. That's really well done. Um, the fight scenes with Doc Ock are really great. Alfred Molina is a great Doc Ock. I think he fits perfectly there in that role. Being somebody who can balance both being the scientist and also being this intimidating villain there, I think works really well. I think he does that really well. Um, yeah, Tobey Maguire still great as Peter Parker, still great as Spider-Man. And I think Mary Jane, him and his relationship with Kristen Dunst, Mary Jane,
Mhm.
um, it was a, I guess, toxic relationship. I guess you can say that. I mean, there's a lot of unsaid things on both sides there, from both sides, and things that she didn't know, that she didn't have information to, and things that he was a little indecisive
Mm,
with, and not forthcoming with. And I think that's also partly to blame. So I think they're both partly to blame there. I don't think
mhm.
Mary Jane is the super toxic
Yeah,
girlfriend there.
here it's more acceptable, it's more understandable. In the third movie, she is all of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, and thank you, Monte. Thank you, man, for the cheers. Very much appreciated, man. Thank you very much there. Rain from Tree said, "What blows my mind is they're still figuring it out and knowing him." Yeah. I think
Yeah,
he said like it's like, hey,
yeah.
they're figuring
The
out or it
trilogy,
worked or something.
the trilogy is an extended origin story for Spider-Man in the MCU, which it is a little ridiculous, but I kind of see what they're going for, and it's like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Because in No Way Home, yeah, they make the cameo and then they ask him about like the relationship there. I think that large part of that is
I
also
mean,
because
a lot of that is, because they are an older couple, and sometimes the best relationships are the ones where you're always still working on it. You're always still figuring things out.
Yeah. And a large part of it is also, I think that, yeah, I mean, they kind of keep his Spider-Man kind of frozen in time of when that last movie
Mhm.
happened. Like, no new villains, no new anything. It's just like, I guess, in case they want to make another one, they don't want to give too much information away. Um,
Yeah, they
uh,
only reference the stuff that happened in the movies.
yeah. So yeah, this definitely is definitely one of the best superhero movies you can watch. There, I think on top of like something like Infinity War or Dark Knight. And go back and watch this. I don't think this is the best Spider-Man movie. I still think the
Mhm.
Spider-Verse movies are
Mhm.
better than this, but doesn't devalue this movie in any way. I still think it is really great, and I give it a peak, very high peak myself. So yeah, 2 This is Cinemas and a peak for Spider-Man 2.